All right, everyone, welcome in. It is finally here. The round of 64, Rob Vino, starts today. These next 2 days, I've said this since I was in about sixth grade. The best 2 days on the sports calendar. It's not even close. Games are going to start at noon. They'll go past midnight. It is just it's the best time of year. So I got my Sienna shirt on, probably the last day I'm going to get to wear this, but I'll wear it proudly today, Rob, because we're in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2010. I'm all fired up, ready to go. I did finish my energy drink. I've also been up since 5 a.m. I don't even need the caffeine today, Rob. I could have probably done without it. Welcome in. How was your night last night? And we'll get this thing started.
Yeah, last night was good. 2-1. Got the I know we probably could have parlayed up here on one game because you love the Miami of Ohio side. I had the total over, even without BJ Edwards. I felt SMU could still score. That was the case. That game went over. And boy, the second game that I had for clients that won last night was the New Mexico Sam Houston State game over, which 190 points, never in doubt, was part of our parlay yesterday, which we can put a few dollar signs next to, show parlay wins. I was wrong with the Kent State team total, though, Adam. The complete no-show out of a Kent State team that I generally regard as a team that comes to play every night. That was a little bit surprising, the fact that they were just never in it. But 2-1 will take, show parlay winning will take, and we're on to today where, as I think this through now, because we're so busy these last few days, I have my first 4% play of the year. Goes today in the NCAA tournament. That's up and available right now. And we can get into today's board because I know that's what people are thinking. And real quick, as somebody who's lived in Las Vegas for 12 years and been part of that madhouse that is the first and second day of the NCAA tournament, it is amazing to me, Adam, not to take up too much time, but it's amazing to me that back in the day, you know, I was there even before I moved there. I was there in 1988 for the tournament. Then I'm there living there from 91 to 03. Or 02, you know, you could still get in. The place was jammed, but you could still get in. Nowadays, you got to buy your way into a sports book to see games. It's just incredible the way this has grown. As you mentioned, I don't think there's 2 days on the sports calendar that compare to these. And I might even go full weekend because Saturday and Sunday are right there too.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I've got no plans this weekend. Mallory's going with her parents to Florida for like the week starting tomorrow. It's going to be me, dog number 1, dog number 2, and I'm not leaving. I'm not moving. I may go down to Turning Stone for a little bit. Other than that, I refuse to move. 1-1 for me last night. I lost in the NIT with George Washington, who loses by 1. Got to stop betting Utah Valley because all they do is just lose games that they're right there with by 1 and couldn't even get a shot off in the final possession. But we got it back with Miami of Ohio. That was our parlay leg. And so, yes, we come into today, Rob. 1-1 split for me, but a nice parlay winner for us here on the show. Very, very quick. I don't have much to report. I said I would come on and report NIT news and injury stuff. Basically, every team that won last night was at full strength. So, again, we're not going to focus on the teams that already got eliminated, but all of the winners last night, with the exception, the only one only notable guy that did not play would be Luke Hunger from George Washington. But the thing is, Castro played and he played 30 minutes and he played great. So Hunger is really only like super valuable in my opinion. Like he was huge for them when Castro was out. But with Castro back, like I don't even have, you know, Cal, everyone played. They looked really good. St. Joe's, everyone played. They went in and won outright. Nevada did spread the minutes around. So I guess that's the final thing I'll throw out here. But they were up, though, Rob. So, you know, Steve Alford maybe looking at this as more of a let's see who I've got on my team because they really, like, spread the minutes around last night. But other than that, I don't have much to report from the NIT. So we'll just get right into it. I didn't plan a feature game because they're all feature games. We got 16 tournament games. There's not one that's bigger than the other. So let's start with Garth. And he says, you know, I really like Penn plus 25.5 today. And I think this is kind of an interesting one to start with, Rob, because, of course, you know, you've got the status of Ethan Roberts. I'm guessing he's not going to play, but he did go through practice. He's there. He went through practice yesterday. I think Fran McCaffrey said that they would sort of reevaluate him and see if he could give it a go. Honestly, the other one, TJ Power, my guess is he probably is ill. He probably is sick, but I doubt he's sick enough to not play. I think, Wednesday for these guys, when you show up to the NCAA tournament, Wednesday, it's really like, it's kind of like I think you get like a 45-minute practice on the court, but it's mostly like media nonsense. So my guess is like Penn was probably just like, yeah, you're good. Like, go rest up. We need you tomorrow. I can't see a scenario where TJ Power doesn't play here, Rob, for Penn. And I think if Ethan Roberts can give it a go, I think he will. But his is a little bit tricky because you've got to, they're not just going to clear you if you still have concussion symptoms. So 25.5, though, is getting up there on the number. So are you with Garth? Do you think Penn can cover this, or are you going to look total in this game?
Probably too risky from the Penn side. TJ Power, I mean, every shot he threw up in the championship game of the Ivy League went in 44 points in that one. He was amazing. I think he had, in watching that, I think he had like 23 in the first half. He was just going crazy for Penn in that one, covering for the Ethan Roberts subtraction. The Ethan Roberts situation, like you say, is crazy because I just think back to last night, and I know we weren't going to dwell on losing teams in the NIT, but Po' Boy King gave it a shot for Sam Houston last night, and that shot made it about 7 minutes. And if you get one of these where I'm going to try and go, but I can't go, then I planned on Roberts not being available in this game, Adam. Yep. So that's just the way I handicapped it. I think it's the way we had to handicap it this week. No Power would make it even worse, or let's just say a subpar TJ Power would make it worse. I don't know that for a fact, but when you're handicapping these things, you got to take all angles. Illinois, I said this about conference tournaments, but to me, Illinois is in full reset mode for this tournament. We did that Sunday show together, Adam, with the Wager Talk, with our Wager Talk colleagues. And I pointed out multiple times, there was a point in this season, maybe even 2/3 of the way through, where I thought Illinois was going to be the team that I would talk about the way I'm talking about Arkansas right now. I thought they would be that team outside the one seeds that could be a potential. I don't know that Arkansas is a potential NCAA champion, but Illinois could give it a run. So deep, so talented, bigs that can shoot from the outside, guards that a pair of point guards that are as good as it gets in NCAA basketball. I don't know if Illinois plays their A game. I don't see any area in this contest where Penn matches up. Zero. The one thing I did think of was, well, maybe Fran will slow this down, and he does have familiarity with Illinois a little bit, but I don't know that his personnel can overcome it. So I'd be scared, Garth. I understand the points are substantial, and a lot of these teams, when they get to, we've talked about this a little bit too, Adam, when they get to that 5-6 minute mark left in the game and the game's in hand, we clear the bench. The issue for me is that Illinois can go about 9 deep, and even the bench maybe can still score. So I'd almost rather look at total, but I'm afraid of how many Penn can score. So in a game that I thought initially I was going to have a pretty good handicap on, I just don't at this point in time.
I want to just focus on the number here because, like, listen, I do think if you're just straight up like looking at like, what's a plus EV number to bet at, right? I can see why you would want Penn plus 25.5. So let's say Penn was full strength. I made this Illinois 18.9. That is with Penn at full strength. So that would be my number. If Penn had all of their players, I would make Illinois an 18.9 point favorite. For me, Ethan Roberts is probably worth 3 to 4 points for that team on the number, just with his usage and how much better they are with him available. I think, again, I have a hard time quantifying. I never really know how to quantify a player properly in college basketball, right? Like, because again, like you talk about a team like Penn, but then you put the matchup in the context of, okay, can we hang Illinois? Can we hang with Illinois? Maybe Ethan Roberts is actually worth more than 3 points or 4 points right there. But long story short, if he's out, I'm near where this opened at 21.5. I think TJ Power plays. Again, if you're TJ Power and you're sick, like, I mean, I'd have to be borderline dead to not go out on that court and give it a go, right? Like, it's not like you have an injury. Like Roberts, listen, Ethan Roberts may say, I want to play. That's different. He's got a concussion. If you're just battling an illness, I feel like you get out there and just leave it all out on the floor. So, like, again, I think 25.5 is probably, there is some value to that number, because now you're talking about if the books were on the same page as me and said, okay, no Roberts, 21.5. What is the 4-point move for here? Because even when I updated my number without Roberts and gave Illinois the benefit of the doubt, I was only at 22. That's what I have written here is 22.2. So you're talking about like 25. Yeah, Garth, from a straight number standpoint, I don't dislike that bet. I would not be trying to lay 25.5 with Illinois. You missed your chance. If you didn't bet Illinois so far, you missed your chance. It's got to be Penn or pass at that number, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only and your biggest concern, again, with a lot of these teams, Adam, you and I talked off air about Duke Siena when we hashed that one out. The fact that Duke could pull people with 6 minutes left. You're already a banged up basketball team. Why would you play everybody all the way through if you have a big lead? Same goes for any of these 20-plus point favorites. The thing we never try to quantify with these players is we always look at what they bring from a point scoring perspective. We never really talk about the defensive end. I don't know a single guy on Penn that's probably capable. I mean, it's got to be team defense, but if you just match these guys up one-on-one, Illinois has advantages offensively over. Illinois could probably score at will in this game. I just looked up. Penn played Villanova early this year. Ethan Roberts only played 11 minutes in that game, Adam. Maybe he got hurt in that Villanova game early on too. I don't remember.
That was the game, I believe. I believe that's the game he got the concussion.
Yeah, and so he was out early. They get beat by 23 by Villanova and gave up 90 to a team that's not extremely athletic. Penn's defensive side would worry me as much as the rebounding on the offensive end. But again, we're betting numbers here. Like you say, 25.5 is large, and you do have that late game concern. You could be down 30 with 6 minutes left and get under this number because Illinois just yanks guys out in preparation for Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's a very good sort of point that you're going to have to take into all of these big, like 1 versus 16 type games. Like, the 16 seed doesn't go in. Like they might, they're going to hype themselves up like and think they have a chance to win. But like in reality, it's maybe one of them will win. But they will all get a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. And like a 16 seed is typically going to play there, even if they're down 22, they're going to be out there playing hard. Like it's still a thrill for them. So yeah, I think that's a good point in basically every game where you've got like a 1 versus 16 or a very heavily favored 2 versus 15. Just know that like those last 5 minutes, like even if Penn was down 30, those last 5 minutes, like they're going to continue to play and play hard. Siena the same way. Let's say Siena's down 30 to Duke. I don't see any scenario where they're not playing their hardest in that final 6 minutes where, yeah, some of these teams, especially the ones that have been a little bit more banged up, are going to have to start looking towards Saturday. And it's why you're not going to find me, laying huge numbers with 1 seeds in this round very often. I don't think it's better than 50-50 against the spread. I need someone to check that for me. But I would say, 16s probably cover half of the time. I think it's fair to say that that's probably the case. So, yeah, good discussion there. And yeah, if you're going to, again, I'd be weary of laying 25.5 with Illinois. I think you have to go dog or pass. All right, quick promo. I've got 4 plays locked in for clients already today. I'm sure Rob's got a bunch locked in. I love my 4 plays, Rob. I'm scared at how much I love them. I've been locking them in. I added a couple this morning. couple are from earlier in the week. I will give one of them out on the show. That'll likely be a parlay leg. But if you want the full card, head on over to Wager Talk and just grab the joint package between Rob and I. You'll get all of our plays for 3 straight days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's some good bang for your buck right there with how much I've already got a 5%er locked in for tomorrow and 2 plays on tomorrow's slate. So that's probably the best value of the year, Rob, for the Double the Firepower CBB. I don't think you could find a better 3-day window to use it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we've got 4 consecutive days, and we're going to have NIT Saturday, Sunday too, Adam, which I'm sure will hit your card in some capacity. I know it'll hit mine after we've seen these first round games go through. So yeah, guys. And the other option to that is just extend it out through the national championship game, because you're going to have all these tournaments available to you. So once again, Double the Firepower CBB plays from Adam and myself. I'll just add one last time. A lot of sides from Adam, mostly sides, 95% for myself, 95% on the totals angle. So you get a good mixture of plays. And guys, I'm going to take 30 seconds here really quick. It was brought to our attention. Adam and I really don't cross-check each other. Adam, who do you got? Rob, who do you got? We really don't cross-check each other at all. We might discuss games, but we're not going to cross-check. We just put our plays in. And it was brought to our attention because I kind of wandered out of the totals lane and into sides this week that we did butt heads on, I think it was 3 plays last week was mentioned to us, Adam. Guys, if you see that in the package, Adam has one side of a game, I have another side of the game. Please, 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 I can't emphasize that enough. Use your best judgment. If you don't have a lot of faith in your opinion on the game and you see us on both sides, common sense would say just don't play, let her go. If you see Adam has a stronger opinion percentage-wise than I do, and meaning he might like it more, and you want to go that way, go that way. But I think to sum it up quickly, just please use your best judgment. We don't cross-check. We've been doing this long enough to where neither one of us is going to talk the other off of something that we already like. We'll listen to counter sides. That's what's great about having a colleague that's so knowledgeable, is I can listen to Adam and perhaps he can give me stuff I wasn't thinking of, but we're rarely going to call up and say, oh, you know what? Okay, you have that game. I'm not going to play that game. It just doesn't happen. So please, again, if you see it inside the package, you may see it opposite sides of a game because we like different teams. Please, please use your best judgment. It's not fair to the office here at Wager Talk to call up and complain and think that we're trying to pull some kind of shenanigans on you. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and listen, like I don't take offense to this. He says I'm rolling with Vino over Trig all day. Someone DM'd me over the weekend and said, "Hey, you're Rob and you are opposite on this game," and I kind of just like had a DM conversation with the client real quick on Twitter, and he was like, "Oh, he's like, no, I'm gonna ride with you there." It's I think it was Arkansas over Arkansas in the SEC final on Vandy, Sunday over Vandy, and it was like he's like, I kind of like where your head is at here. I'm going to go with you. The point is, it's rare that it's going to happen. If it does, you can just throw the game out. There's plenty of other games to bet, or just, you're good. That's the nice part about you're getting the analysis. So you can read it and then say, okay, I like this, I dislike this. But yeah, it did come up a couple of times down the stretch. I don't know why someone's saying Trig is overdue. I'm on like my 3rd straight month of winning here. I'm like 11-2 in my last 13 picks. And at one point last week, I hit 9 in a row. So I don't think I'm really over. I had a bad November and December. We're like one good a weekend away from that being a very, very distant memory. I think I'm up. I think I've made back 80. I think I'm 84 units since January 1st. So it's been a really good run. And again, couple splits to start this week, but I hope we continue just stay hot. And I want Rob to win as many as well. So Double the Firepower CBB package. You're going to get all our plays. Check that out, wagertalk.com. Rob, I want to talk about this. This is the wrong game. That is a Friday game. Hold on a second. I am in the chat and I've picked the wrong. I want to go to Noah Jones, super chat right here. Noah Jones, I missed Noah a couple of times earlier in the week when he asked for something. So I wanted to make sure we got him in the mix with this game. So we're going to stay the 2 versus 15 seed line here. Noah says, love Tennessee State as a 15 seed, but I hate their matchup with Iowa State. Yeah, we kind of alluded to this earlier in the week that some of these underdogs were put in very bad matchups for the underdog. And I would say this is one of those at matchups right here. Tennessee State, props to Nolan Smith. I love what he's done in the first year there. I think you and I, Rob, started talking about this league back in January, thinking that Tennessee State was the strongest team, and they proved to be the strongest team in this league. But they're very athletic. They get up and down. I think Nolan Smith sort of is the anti-analytics guy when it comes to just like, get the athletes going. They'll take bad shots, but they make a good amount of them. A lot in transition, a lot going to the rim. Noah, I'm with you. That's a terrible way to attack Iowa State. And this is one where I was, it would have been favorite or pass, because Iowa State is the type of team that I think will blow games open against these lesser schools. And also, Rob, they might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, given how their regular season ended. They lose that thriller to Arizona. So this is one scenario where I might lay the big number. I haven't done it yet, but talk to Noah, Tennessee State, Iowa State.
I think, I just smiled when I saw the comment, Adam, because I think it happens to all of us. Like, especially, I'm not trying to put us on a pedestal, but I'm going to say, especially like you and I, where we follow all the mid-majors, right? A lot of people follow power conference and not mid-majors, but when you're following mid-majors, you look forward to being able to bet them first round of the tournament. And then you see the matchup and you're like, capital SHIT, damn, I can't get there. Against that team. And this is one of those cases. I think Noah put it beautifully. One of the problems Tennessee State's going to have here is that they were able to feast on their opposition, getting turnovers. And Iowa State's just so veteran in that backcourt led by Lipsy that they're not going to turn it over against this team. And they face such defensive pressure inside the Big 12 that they're more than used to it, accustomed to it. So like you were saying, Adam, it's just a bad matchup. You wish Tennessee State could have been placed against somebody else where we could have played them. And honestly, out of all of the lower seeded teams, let's say from 12 down, generally this past 4 days since the tourney was announced, they get a lot of publicity, a lot of media coverage. A lot of guys come out of the woodwork nationally and claim that Team X has a chance to do some damage. Tennessee State is one of those mid-majors that hasn't drawn a lot of talk from anywhere, not the way that, say, like High Point has, or I'm sure there's other examples. Maybe Hofstra has, since the Alabama suspension to Holloway, or non-suspension. I don't even know if it's a suspension yet, but Northern Iowa against St. John's. Tennessee State has laid under the radar, and you would love to get there with a team that's under the radar. But again, matchup is difficult. It really is. Iowa State, very good basketball team, started to prove at the end of the year what we thought from the beginning of the season, that they were Elite Eight quality. They definitely have the personnel to be that.
Yeah. It's just, if they're going to give up all this transition. Oh yeah. I highlighted the comment. I like that. Trig coming apart at the seams. He's so excited. Of course I am. We haven't, not only is it the NCAA tournament, but Siena has not played in the NCAA tournament since 2010. And your boy was spoiled when he was a student, because 2008, 2009, and 2010, it was NCAA tournament win over Vandy, NCAA tournament win over Ohio State. The 2010 team was the best one of all, and they just drew a very good Purdue team. So yeah, I am absolutely just ready to implode here. And I just cracked another Diet Coke. I said I wasn't going to do it, and here it was at the desk, and now I'm drinking more caffeine. So yeah, I am turned up. Just to get back to this game. So someone in the chat said, yeah, this is a Friday game. So that's okay. If we get a super chat request for it, we're going to do it. And we hadn't talked about this game at all this week. So I'm not going to spend a ton more time on it. They're going to give up transition to Iowa State, and Iowa State is probably going to drop 100 on Tennessee State in this game. If that's the case, the points become a little less valuable when you're laying points. Like, I made the parallel earlier in the week when we talked Duke Siena, where it was like, that's probably going to be a slower game, less possessions. Whereas like Tennessee State's not going to play a slower game with less possessions. They're just going to, I can't see them doing anything other than playing their game. and seeing if they can hang around. So at 23 on the open, I actually think Iowa State's a pretty good bet there. Even if you can get a 20, like they're still 24.5. I think I'd go as high as to say 24.5 is a fine bet. I think this is Iowa by 30, maybe more. I think this one's going to get ugly. Clem, of course, that was I already finished the peach mango bang. I've been up since 5 a.m. It's 10:25 here on the East Coast. That's long gone. But real quick promo. So the other thing, I want to promote our show, but also the fact that we are live and on demand. So right now, we're not going to hit on, like, if you go back into the timestamps of yesterday's show and the day before, you'll find our full Arkansas-Hawaii breakdown, and you will find our full TCU Ohio State breakdown. So those two games I'm not going to talk about on the show because we already devoted an entire sort of segment to them the last 2 days. So TCU Ohio State, I believe we did that one yesterday. And then on Tuesday, Arkansas Hawaii, they already got the full sort of treatment on this show. So I'm going to go to the chat, Rob. This one is getting the most conversation in the chat right now of everyone. And Steve Duke, I'm going to bring Steve Duke in here. Shout out Steve Duke. He's always watching this show, contributes every day as well. And he says, everyone seems to think I'm wrong, but I like BYU versus Texas. He says, I know BYU pissed everyone off this year, but BYU are pretty tough down the stretch. Steve, I'm very much in agreement with you. This might not have been the dream season for the BYU Cougars that they expected, but they just got themselves a dream matchup in the first round of the NCAA tournament by Texas winning that game. Rob, I like the Cougars. Are you getting involved? BYU Texas, the newest matchup. We didn't know this matchup until Tuesday night. We now know it's BYU Texas. What do you got in this one?
Well, just to further good scenarios for BYU, they've gotten rest. Adam, we talk about these layoffs as rest versus rust, 2020 hindsight. It's hard to tell. I can honestly say that from my standpoint, at least for BYU, having this time off is extremely helpful to this team, which had to play tough matchups all the way down the stretch against competition from what some would argue is the best conference in the country, and shorthanded with DeBansta trying to take the whole thing on, with Rob Wright adding support because of the Richie Saunders injury about 7-8 games ago. So I just think that the rest was so valuable for BYU that we're going to see them at full potency offensively, so to speak, here tonight. And I guess, maybe I was dead wrong the other day when I came on and said, I don't know what Sean Miller and what Will Wade can take from game tape in November, a matchup. I don't know if it was the third in 3 days, whatever that was, in the tournament in Maui. I didn't know that they could take anything from that matchup game tape wise and apply it and make the outcome a little bit different. They didn't make it a little bit different. They made it a lot different. That game was so low scoring, so polar opposite of what their first matchup was. Texas BYU don't have that luxury. Going to see each other for the first time. This is quick on the fly preparation for Texas. Certainly they had to prep really, really hard for NC State. It's not like that was a look ahead game to where they could have focused their attention forward to BYU, thinking if we win, let's just go prep for BYU. Doesn't happen. So now here we are in this game, and I kind of love the total to go over here. I think BYU rested at full offensive force can take advantage of Texas defense. And I can say the same on the other side because Brigham Young certainly is limited somewhat in what they can do defensively. DeBansta has to extend himself so much on the offensive end to be what BYU needs him to be that, he can sort of take a little bit of time off on the defensive side. Texas is very capable scoring-wise. We pointed that out. Texas does foul a bunch, as we pointed out, although they have corrected it to an extent, corrected that issue. I think this is going to be polar opposite of what Texas did the other day against NC State. I think we're going to see points here. Let me just get a current number on this game as far as total is concerned. It team totals I can see right here, BYU 79.5, 80. Got to say, I could be in for that as well. And full game total here, guys, as we speak, numbers are moving. 158 seems to, 157.5 actually prevails too. So in this NCAA tournament board, which has seen almost every game bet under, under, this game hasn't moved hardly at all. 158, and there's a lot of 158 still there. So for me, I think this game hits 160 plus. I like that end of it, Adam. I think it's going to be a little bit of an offensive battle, which is what we expect, generally speaking, out of BYU. Game played in Portland. Got to consider a little bit of travel for Texas, but I think we've seen in the past these first four teams don't necessarily run out of gas in the second game. So for me, it's probably going to be an overplay.
Well, for me, this is going to be our parlay leg. And I am going to, I'll give one of my I've got 4 client plays right now for today, 2 locked in for tomorrow. I'll most likely be adding at least one more. I'm feeling good about how things are going right now. So I'm not going to be shy. I think this weekend, probably your best opportunity for the rest of the way to really make money in the NCAA tournament. Not that there's not good spots in the later rounds, but there'll be far less chances once you're in the Sweet 16 or not. So I'm not leaving anything off. I really like BYU here, and I went BYU money line at -135 for clients. Right now, it really hasn't moved much. Might be -140 or -145. We will. I'll let Rob tell me what a fair money line is to put in the parlay. But what this one comes down to me, where this one comes for me, Rob, is the fact that BYU. This is the best case scenario for them, because they got a team that's going to let them that's going to force them to ISO score. And if you're BYU right now in the post Richie Saunders era, that's exactly what you want to see. You want a defense that's going to basically, you want AJ DeBansa in ISO, right? Like you want a defense that's going to allow him to get to win a one-on-one matchup, or get to a scenario where it's just him, the ball, and he's got to make a move and try to get a shot off. Same thing with Rob Wright. What you don't want right now, if you're BYU, is a team that's going to maybe zone you, maybe force you to really spread the floor, because that's what they've struggled to do. Now, Rob, I noted when I started to write this one up that, BYU in the post Richie Saunders era, right, which is since he's gotten hurt, they do have a couple of kind of very, very good wins. They knocked off Iowa State and Texas Tech, both in the post Richie Saunders era for them, which is, again, this is just the since he's been hurt. And then at the Big 12 tournament, they beat Kansas State, they beat West Virginia, and they played a respectable game with a very good Houston team. So it's possible that they're starting to figure it out a little bit as well. And I think what people are losing track of here is the fact that there were people that thought BYU was winning a national championship this year coming into the season. That's how highly they were rated. They probably aren't that. But all you're asking them to do here is beat a Texas team that needed a buzzer beater to get by NC State, and is just not this is just not a good matchup for Texas. The final thing I'll say, Vokatitis, guy can't stay out of foul trouble. He even got into trouble a little bit in the NC State game. And the drop off for them on the front court when he is not on the floor is notable. It's substantial. And so, if BYU can just get him into foul trouble, or DeBansa can just capitalize on these one-on-one ISO opportunities, BYU is probably going to win this game. And so for that reason, I am on BYU. That's a 4% client play for me at -135. And that will be the first leg of our parlay. Rob, what is the fair money line for BYU right now?
It looks mostly 140s all the way across, Adam. I see 137 in one spot, and there is
we'll call it 140.
out there.
We'll call it 140 again. Obviously, shop around. I put that out this morning. I did notice it ticked up a little bit before we got on the show. So again, -140 for the parlay is perfectly fine. And I just think that they've been sort of had to hear it for the last 3-4 weeks. But I haven't heard one person say, you know what, BYU's playing better basketball, which if you're going to beat Texas Tech and then go to the Big 12 tournament, win 2 games, and then play Houston tight, I think you can officially say they're playing better than they were in those first couple games without Saunders. So BYU for me, love the Cougars here. They live to at least the round of 32. I do have a small BYU future from the beginning of the season that is likely a coaster, Rob, at this point, but I think they at least get to the round of 32. So go Cougs. All right, Mad Max, let's go to this game. This is another one. I don't think we've talked about this at all on any show yet. So I'm glad that you brought this one up. The reason I haven't really brought it up, Rob, is I can't find a bigger coin flip than VCU UNC right now. My number comes out right on where the number is, and I kind of see a path to victory for both teams here. So I'm going to let you kick this one off. Mad Max likes UNC tonight. Do you have any interest in the UNC side? He says, if not, what about the team total?
Kelly put us on the spot Sunday, the Sunday show. And
no, she wouldn't do such a thing.
I am not one. Well, and she knows, obviously we all work together, so she knows everybody's tendencies, but she knows that I'm not one to come up with outrageous scenarios. I just kind of stick to my lane. I'm not going to make some kind of outrageous claim so that in case it wins, I can live off of that for the rest of my career. But she did ask for it. Give me some kind of hot take, something that people don't see coming that maybe will happen. And mine was, and I think legitimate, that there's potential for VCU to find their way through this round, through the round of 32, and then into the Sweet 16. So that was my so-called hot take. Take that for what it's worth. VCU definitely has a path to victory here, as does UNC. UNC is the more talented team, I think, even despite the fact that they lose Caleb Wilson. Lost him a few games ago. And just like you mentioned with Richie Saunders a minute ago, Adam, we have discussed this. The further these teams get away from an injury and the more time they have to form something cohesive, the less that injury really means anymore. And with Caleb Wilson, he hasn't played in a while. And Vessar has taken over and been able to do a lot in the post. Maybe he can do a lot in the post here. But VCU under Martelli Jr. is such a different style. UNC probably played, I don't know, something similar in FSU, but FSU just doesn't play the defensive end as good as Virginia Commonwealth does. So to me, VCU can cause some headaches on UNC's offensive end for sure, and turn that into points as well. So for me, I do think that VCU has a legitimate shot to win here. However, I can see the counter argument for North Carolina. Total here open 154, bet down to 151.5, which, I would say surprising, but not surprising because, as I mentioned earlier, NCAA tournament games just blindly get bet to the under up and down the board. Universally, under, different venue, whatever the reasoning is. I saw a little video by good friend and colleague Ralph Michaels, who actually pointed out unders do come through at an alarming rate in the first round. So maybe mechanically just play unders. But I always lean towards matchups speak louder than any, 3-year trend might point to. And this matchup just doesn't appeal to me as an under game, Adam. I think there's ways to score for both. But the question was about side. I could make a case for both. As I mentioned earlier, VCU gets through here. They would play Illinois, who's been somewhat of again, you're just taking the fact that they've been somewhat underachievers this year, and maybe VCU could get past them too. There's better guard play on Illinois. But for this game in particular, I don't know. I could see the underdog here push up in the line to 2.5. I could also see UNC winning a close game by 3 or 4, using the big guy, especially using the big guy, Vessar, to carry them through this one.
I lied about this being my number being right on. My number is actually closer to pick. So it's I made it like 0.1 North Carolina, which is I'll just essentially call that pick. So if I was to just trust my number here, actually VCU does sort of make the cut in terms of I feel like I've got 2.5 points of line value. But I think I'm reading the chat and I'm agreeing with a couple of the takes in the chat where my main concern with VCU was scoring, and if they would be able to put enough points up to beat North Carolina in this game. My main concern for I guess part of the reason that I would gravitate toward VCU, other than seeing a 2.5 point numerical edge, is because I don't know if UNC scores enough to outlast VCU. So, Rob, is it as simple as just saying I like the under here? Because I think both defenses probably play well, and I see both teams maybe having some trouble putting the ball in the hoop. So this kind of feels like an under to me. I may sort of just give my opinion out on the total and say, well, my number likes VCU on the side, but I'm not confident enough in that. So, do what you will with that. But under kind of makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, like I said, the pace of game will probably be quick. If I'm just a counter with, we always make those two columns, assets, liabilities. If I was going to play under, I would say, well, pace of play is probably going to give us enough possessions, enough chances to score. Where VCU is always concerned, you can end up in somewhat of a foul game. The game lined at 2.5 might suggest that down the stretch, last 90 seconds, we're in one of those foul score type of deals. So extension to the total could happen. But if we're just speaking fundamentally, throughout the course of the game, those other asset points are well taken. VCU does not shoot the ball well. UNC has had some periods of time where they've struggled, but I think they've been a better scoring team than some think. Interesting matchup, Adam. One of the better ones for today. When you have an opinion on a total, I'm gonna go by you because you don't have a lot of opinions on totals. So we'll see how that one goes. But the question was about UNC, and I'm not going to talk anybody off of UNC. I do. The Greenville venue might help UNC. They're going to travel much better to South Carolina. Although VCU fans, Virginia's a hop, skip, and a jump away as well. Richmond is not that far. So we'll see. But I think the stands might be dominated by UNC Carolina Blue today.
Yeah, some green and gold will be scattered around that venue, Rob. Don't worry about that. We got some people going down. But yeah, that's listen.
Down.
Again, the final thing I'll say about this game, if you do like UNC, I would not be that surprised if that 2.5 got hit at some point. My gut tells me VCU is gonna take some money here over the next hour or two, and if they do, you might get that money line knocked down where you can just simply take North Carolina to win. That is far more appealing, in my opinion. Like if you can get like a -130 money line on UNC to win, as opposed to having to lay 2.5, that's far more appealing. I would wait. If you like North Carolina, I think the right move is to wait. My gut says VCU's getting hit here, probably as soon as I say it on this show, because that's how it goes, Rob. As soon as we start talking about something on a show, the board starts moving. So yeah, wait if you like UNC, in my opinion. All right, this is one. So Rob, let's revisit this game. Garth says another play I like is USF in quotes upsetting Louisville. Now, this one we talked about quite a bit, but it was part of our Selection Sunday show when the brackets first came out, and then I think you and I sort of went into this game on Monday before all the news, before the news was official that Mikal Brown wouldn't play, and quite frankly, when USF was a much better number than it is now. But I agree with the sentiment here, Garth. With upsetting in quotes, I don't think it's that much of an upset if South Florida wins this game. I almost think the lesser team and the teams that Louisville profiles as the mid-major here, Rob, they're going to have to hit a whole bunch of threes to win this game, while USF is the bigger, stronger, faster, more physical team. So, Garth, I have to agree with the way you phrased that. I don't think it'd be that big of an upset if South Florida leaves Buffalo with a win this afternoon. And if you can still get a 5, I think that's playable, even if it's 5 minus 120. Rob, your thoughts, USF Louisville, are you in line there? And what about the total?
Yeah, and I was reading a little bit about how this might be a little bit of a homecoming for Brian Hodgson, head coach of USF, obviously started on the staff of Nate Oates at Buffalo. So for him, maybe a little meaning. I don't know how that would work into a handicap, just a little general fact. I like the South Florida side. I said it before this season. I've bet on Louisville a couple of times, and to their credit, they've come through for me, playing them team total wise. This game's going to be fast, up and down. Neither team knows any other way to play. But I do think that South Florida can sort of force the issue. It's often said that a team that presses hates to be pressed back. I'm not going to use the press, so to speak, here, but I'm going to say that a team that loves to play extreme tempo, it doesn't exactly like extreme tempo right back down their throats. And that's kind of how I see this for the Louisville side. They're the favorite side. South Florida, to me, and I know, Adam, you were on them since the start of the season, but to me, they played their best basketball down the stretch. They look better and better and better every time I see them now. They've cleaned up some things defensively, which makes them a little bit better. I can't say the same for Louisville on that end. If you were to ask me, if you and I were given a piece of paper with all, let's just say 18 names of the top 9 on each side, and you and I got to draft, the guy who got more Louisville players would probably be in good shape. But that aside, I just think as a team, South Florida plays the game the way Louisville plays it. They play it better. And as you said earlier, the fact that they go to the rim so much more than Louisville does. And when you're minus Mikel Brown shooting threes, it makes a difference. Go back and look at some games. It makes a difference when he's not out there to help shoot these things. And South Florida's got the time to prep for that. Their perimeter defense, I would expect to be a little bit better here today. They're going to focus on it. Louisville might get in some foul trouble trying to defend South Florida going to the rim. So for me, I've liked South Florida since the beginning. Obviously, the world likes them. And maybe that's because they figured out, or not they figured out, but it was announced that Brown officially wouldn't play. Yep. So we're staring at 4.5 now. If you got it early, and I think you got a 5.5 anticipating the Brown not playing. Remember I sent you that thing earlier in the week, Louisville Courier Journal reporting that he's available to play. And then all of a sudden, oops, no, he's not going to play.
I think we on our shows all week were pretty adamant that Brown was not going to play and BJ Edwards was not going to play. And BJ Edwards did not play last night for SMU. Louisville was nice enough to at least tell people a few days before that Brown is out. Because I don't think Edwards ever had any intention of playing, but SMU did a heck of a job trying to make it look like he was. Listen, there's probably some correlation here. If you like Louisville, which I do not, I like South Florida in this game. I think South Florida is going to win. But if you like Louisville, they're going to have to shoot a lot of threes to win. There's no question. They're going to probably have to win a high-scoring shootout type game, similar to the game they beat Miami maybe a week or two ago, where it was 92-89. So I definitely think there's some correlation Louisville over. But for me, I just don't. Without Mikel Brown, I don't trust them to play that game efficiently enough to beat South Florida, who's just like you said, they've been playing their best ball. It's something one more thing I want to point out about South Florida. They basically hired a defensive coordinator this year in Tobin Anderson, who was Iona's head coach last year, kind of was just fired at just randomly fired because he didn't do a bad job, but they wanted to go in a different direction. And so Hodgson brought him in as almost like an associate head coach type hire. But his number one entire job was just the defense. And so, he's a great head coach. Tobin Anderson, of course, you'll see him, especially if Siena wins today, Rob, you'll see him a lot because he was the last 16 to beat a 1 when he was at Fairleigh Dickinson. But you made the point South Florida's defense has improved. Yeah, that was him. He's taken this team, which was very all over the place defensively at the beginning of the year, and they've played great defense the last month or so. It's because they have a head coach there that's straight up coaching their defense, and a really good one at that. He also got a head coaching job. He's going to be the next head coach at Tennessee Tech. So props to Tobin Anderson. But for this South Florida team, I think that's why you've seen this really big jump defensively. They're the better team here. I don't know how else to say it. You're still, even at the bad number, you're still catching points with the better team. It's simple as that. All right, Rob Bino, I have one question that I want to go to in the chat. That's not a game breakdown. So I'm just gonna bring this question up because I think this is very interesting. Favorite Survivor play today from Vino and Trig. People are getting into college basketball Survivor. I've done it. I'm in it this year. I didn't do as many last year because I still was trying to feel it out. Essentially, what college basketball Survivor pools are. You cannot burn teams that you think are going to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, the championship game. You straight up just cannot use those teams in the early round, or you will get to the later rounds with a chance where you're taking a big underdog probably in an Elite Eight game or a Final Four game. So the key to Survivor is finding a play that you think wins today, but likely loses in the round of 32. And so, favorite survivor play today from me, and then I'll let Rob have the floor. I think I'd look toward Nebraska against Troy or Vanderbilt against McNeese State. The reason being is I don't see either of those teams getting upset, but you've also got a double-digit favorite. Now, there is merit in these competitions to getting a little bit crazy in the early rounds, especially if you have multiple entries. And then I would say maybe St. Mary's or BYU would be worth a look as a small favorite. But when I look at all the teams, all the spreads, all those 20-point favorites, you don't want to use them because you're going to need them in later rounds. And then I feel like Nebraska and Vandy are kind of sitting there for you at like double-digit spreads. Whereas, like, I don't know, I think you have to take one of those double-digit favorites as opposed to like St. Mary's might get through, BYU might get through, but all of those teams probably aren't making the Elite Eight or the Final Four. So that's how I would approach it. I think Nebraska and Vandy are the two survivor plays today. Rob, anything to add there? And if not, feel free to just move on to whatever you want to talk about for the parlay.
It's interesting as I look through it, Adam. I don't know. I'm just trying to comb the brackets. I don't know that I would be confident enough to use Illinois a second time. I just talked about how I think they could possibly lose should VCU advance. They could possibly lose if North Carolina wins that game. And as they move on, the next step would be through Houston. So if I'm anticipating not using Illinois a second time,
Sure.
like just once, and then I don't think that I would use them again, I think today would be the day to do it. You're 25.5-point favorite. You shouldn't lose to Penn. But I think the opportunity for them to get beat the next couple rounds, not so much that, but the fact that I don't think I would use them.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, listen, if you don't think the Illini, if there's going to be a matchup, that's another great point, Rob. If there's going to be not going to be the matchup that you want with a team that's not like in your Elite Eight or Final Four, those are who you're going to want to use over the next couple of days. So yeah, if you think Troy or McNeese is live for an upset, Illinois probably is the safest of any survivor pick that would make sense today, because all the other ones that are quote unquote safer picks, you need those teams. You need the Dukes, right. You need the Michigans. But if you can do without Illinois, I don't disagree with that at all. That's a good point. And so we've got 8 minutes left. It's going to be at minimum a 2-teamer. Maybe we'll agree on a leg, but I'm going to throw it to Rob. Any game he wants to talk about and lock his parlay leg in right here.
All right, I'll give you one that we have talked little, if at all, about. I don't think we've hit on this game whatsoever. Tight point spread, but I'm going to go to style of play here, and it's been bet up a little, but I'm going to play St. Mary's -3 against Texas A&M. Was 2.5, better number than 3, obviously, but now you have to lay the 3. But I'm going to do it. We often talk about in this tournament, you get out of conference. We hit on this on the Sunday show. The most difficult thing to me where matchups are concerned in these NCAA tournament non-conference games is unique style. And there's no more unique style than St. Mary's as far as slow basketball is concerned. You put that up against a team that just wants to go the way buckyball does want to go at Texas A&M, and I think it causes problems just from a conceptual standpoint. I think that matchup causes problems no matter who it is. To further that, you would say that Texas A&M probably lost more than they won down the stretch of the SEC season because the SEC teams were granted the ability to see Bucky McMillan's style. And as the season went on, it got less and less effective. Maybe the players burnt out a little bit, not used to the conditioning that it takes to play this style, but maybe it's also SEC teams getting enough tape on this stuff and saying, okay, here's how we attack these guys. St. Mary's doesn't necessarily have that, so their style is unique to St. Mary's as well. All that being said, I weight the St. Mary's style as being more effective offensively against the defense of Texas A&M. I weight the St. Mary's style being more effective in frustrating Texas A&M more than what Texas A&M does to frustrate St. Mary's. But the real clincher for me, Adam, is this year St. Mary's rebounds the ball so well. I don't know that A&M is going to get a lot of second chances at shots in this game. St. Mary's is an elite rebounding team, and we can't just brush off the WCC anymore. I mean, usually it's just St. Mary's Gonzaga, but guess who else is in the dance? Santa Clara this year. It's a better basketball league than it's been in the past. So I kind of put extra stock into St. Mary's rebounding numbers. Randy Bennett is a tested tournament coach. The other side has Bucky McMillan. In my estimation, good coach, good system, but just not the same. I don't like the way A&M closed the season. I like the way St. Mary's came back and beat Gonzaga in that second meeting when they had to. I like St. Mary's here to win by at least 4. So I'm going to lay the 3 as a parlay leg here. St. Mary's -3 over A&M. A game also is played in Oklahoma City, which could favor. Some would say, hey, listen, A&M's going to have more fans. But I just don't see St. Mary's, Adam, as a team that gets rattled by venue. And I don't think they're ever rattled. So they've got enough shooting. They've got enough rebounding. They've got a style, to me, that works and adds up to a 4-point win.
Yeah, and those if you like St. Mary's, I would probably grab it now. Those 3, there are still plenty of 3s out there, but I do see a couple of places going to 3.5 on that one. We'll use 3 for the parlay. I may, I'm actually not even going to attach juice because there's still plenty of 3s, but I do see some books moving toward 3.5. So just a note there. Rob, so I'm just going to go back to our last segment for a second. If you want to be the guy that's like, I need straight up carnage, I need big upsets, and I want to go different from everyone in Survivor, I think the way to do that is St. Mary's. I think St. Mary's for me is probably the strongest short favorite on the board. I don't think you should be taking an underdog ever in Survivor. So let's put it that way. You should never, you should be able to map out your Survivor where you're never on an underdog. And so if you don't want to burn, like a lot of people are going to use Nebraska, a lot of people probably use Vandy because I think people have the same thought process. Illinois is a good option. That's, but if it's the safer option, you're not going to, you'd be burning a team that could make it pretty far. I think St. Mary's is like the good sort of like, I'm going to zig when everyone else zags type Survivor entry. And Rob, I'm with you. This is one that's I've been kind of looking at it all week, thinking along the lines that you were thinking, where it's a, great stylistic matchup for St. Mary's. I trust Randy Bennett in this spot against, to put a game plan together that's going to neutralize Texas A&M and the Bucky Ball sort of style. So I can't disagree with you here. I think you made really good points, and I could only jump on that bet with you on St. Mary's. And again, I think if you're just, again, to hammer the point home, because people are doing Survivors, for me, this would be the non-double digit favorite Survivor pick today. St. Mary's to win in Survivor, because I don't think this team's making a crazy run this year. But I do think they gave him a very nice first round matchup. So my question to you, Rob, is do you want to leave it a 2-teamer or should we agree on a leg and get crazy? It's up to you. We hit a 2. Listen, we string together a couple 2-team parlay wins. We're going to be back in the mix. And, it's your call. Do you want to try to agree on it? We got to decide in the next minute. Throw one out there. I'll let you know if I agree.
Let me say this to you really quick. For those who don't know, I'll be on a plane to Las Vegas tonight. I won't be on the show tomorrow with Adam. He'll have a different guest. But, Adam, I'll send in picks for the parlay while I'm on the road.
Okay.
So with Perfect. A different guest tomorrow, if you want to go 3-team tomorrow, we
can let's do that
tomorrow with your guest and my pick from afar. I'll be in Las Vegas in the madness.
Yeah, I probably should have brought that up. That's awesome that you're getting out to Vegas for that. Matt Winnick is going to fill in for you tomorrow. So he was with me over Thanksgiving break when you were out. He's awesome, tremendous basketball mind. So looking forward to having him on tomorrow. And yeah, we'll do that. We'll make it a 3-teamer tomorrow with me, you, and then of course Matt Winnick, the co-host for tomorrow's show. And so for today, let's just keep it a 2-teamer. See if we can go back-to-back 2-team wins on the parlay. BYU on the money line, St. Mary's -3. BYU is one of my 4 client plays today. I'm probably going to I may add at least one more. I love the slate today, and I've got 4 locked in. One of those is BYU. You can get all of them and everything Rob has for today on the Double the Firepower CBB package that's up on both of our pages. If you email into customer support, they'll give you a discount to have that essentially through, I like to say through one shining moment, Rob, because, that is the official end of the college basketball season. The nets are cut down. It's well past midnight on the East Coast, and you're waiting for them to play that same dumb song. They got rid of the everything good about, like, courts and, like, they sterilized like the look of March Madness, but we still have to listen to that song. They haven't changed the song. So anyway, have a great day today, everyone. Enjoy the games. Rob and I will be back in the morning for more Full Court Press, and good luck to everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you guys in the morning.